Hello, Vincent. It is such a pleasure welcoming you and such a pleasure seeing you again. Welcome. And I am going to introduce quickly our interview here. I think it's a great pleasure having you for our 20 years Venture Leaders interview round. We were together in 2014 when we went to Boston, and it was the early times of the company you co-founded, ONWARD Medical, a company you will talk about. I'll let you introduce what you do. I always like to say what you do is completely stellar. I mean, you are helping people walk again. And this is really fantastic. I think it's one of the brilliant and impressive, impactful company that we have here. To give me your title today, what is your activity, and talk a little bit about Onward before diving into the specific actually learnings that you had while going with your company international and some memories you have from Venture Leaders. Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you, Jordi. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. It was a pleasure to be with you 12 years ago for Venture Leaders in Boston and New York as well. I am Vincent Delattre, co-founders of ONWARD Medical. Today, I am a Senior Director Technology Innovation, and ONWARD Medical is developing neuromodulation solution to restore neurological function.
This is amazing. Thank you very much. Can you tell me a little bit more, maybe in a brief, very briefly, a few steps of Onward, which was born actually and I think developed originally here at the EPFL in Switzerland, and then how did it unfold very briefly before we dive into some more specific?
Well, very briefly, we were scientists trying to restore function. And we did that in animals, and we went to scale to humans. And for that, we need tools and devices that simply did not exist. So we had to create a company to develop the solution we needed. And well, we could not find the mean to do that solely in Switzerland. So we had to be global very quickly go abroad to find investors, and then very quickly go abroad to do clinical studies, because you cannot just do clinical studies for spinal cord injury only in Switzerland, and you have to go quickly in US, in Canada, in UK, in Europe. And so we have been global almost since day one.
This is really quite impressive. And so in this day one going global, I think you mentioned starting going and having to pitch investor globally from day one. What were sort of the learnings you took in maybe differences, or how are you leveraging the different type of cultures or different type of approach with investors when preparing or when delivering your pitch?
It's important to address investors to whom we are providing a compelling business case, but that also matches their fund target and objectives. In our case, we were unfortunately not matching any of the Swiss funds that were existing back then. So we had to address large VC funds in Europe, specialized in Medtech industry.
And these particular funds, I mean, and I would say Europe or US, what did you feel any difference, or did you feel there was really, because at the level you were, there was really sort of a coherent approach to the investment?
So for US investors, I mean, even today, I think we have limited US funds because we are mostly European based. And I think we need to have a stronger footprint in US, stronger sales, stronger clinical presence to attract US funding. And this has been missing in the first 10 years. We are getting there. And at the beginning, once you are like a small Swiss startup, it's much easier to attract funding from Switzerland and Europe.
Coming back to the next stage, it's a little bit more on the question of how did it work more? You mentioned the clinical, going to the doctors, we're going on the clinical. How did it work with you on that front, or what were the learnings? What did you see, and what did you learn in this process with something that is just as advanced as what you do?
So to create innovation in the medical industry, I mean, you need to work with university hospitals. This is where research occurs. This is where innovation is possible. And this is what we did. However, people with spinal cord injuries are typically treated in specialized rehabilitation centers where, they have limited bandwidth for research. So we first need to work with centers where you have basically limited patient access in order to be able to demonstrate your therapy is suitable for rehabilitation centers. And then the clinical settings in those different institutions are quite different. So in university hospital, you get all the researchers and support that you need. And in standard clinical settings, people have just no time for research. I mean, it needs to work from day one. You press a button, start. It's expected to work within minutes. So that's a big difficulty. You need to address the clinical community, the clinical needs, also in the stepped approach.
Is this something where you can sense that between the difference? Also, we hear very often from different partners that when you have references, typically maybe in Europe, you still have to repeat everything when you go US, and that even if you have one or even 20, or in the US, the opposite being also that you need to repeat communities. Did you have to go through these things, really convincing local people in order to make sure that you convince other local people, or could you leverage communities?
You need to convince everybody, I think, especially if you come from Europe. It's not seen what you do in Europe from the US, so you need to repeat miracles also overseas.
So you have to repeat miracle overseas, even if they happen in the other continent.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe what was your biggest surprise in all of this? I mean, what were the big learnings that if you turn around, I think you would tell to the new generation of ventilators, hey, make sure that you anticipate or think about these points as you are launching and as you will be developing your company?
Yes, so we operate in a very regulated industry, and as scientists and innovators, you want to go for the moon, right? You think of your product in the best possible way, and the easiest is what's often called a longer fruit is less attractive. So you have this dilemma to cope with. You want to do the best you can, but you need to do the simplest as you can, and all of that in the health industry. So what happened with our product is we ended up with a very limited intended use approved by the FDA, and you know, with your communication, you're very controlled, so you're very careful with the word you choose, what your product is intended for, and in your press release and website, you need to be very, very careful. And the first day the product is approved by the FDA, you have doctors posting on social media all sort of claims, using the device for all sort of use, and you're like, okay, so I've been worrying for this for 10 years because I want to do the most, and I limited myself to the low-hanging fruit. But in fact, everything just happens by itself. Not saying that it should be encouraged, but it was kind of like funny. Like, we limited ourselves to something very limited and restricted for the FDA market approval, and then on day one, people just do whatever they want.
It just went out and it rolled out, almost out of your control.
Yes, I mean, it is out of our control. I mean, you give these devices in the hand of doctors, they use it in the way they want to. Of course, there is an intended use. We train them to use it in the way it's supposed to be done, but then they are in control of the therapies they want to deliver to the patient.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that of course, with the impact you have, we can also think that the doctors and the patients would like this to go as far as possible. I mean, helping people walk again when you have been paralyzed is just an amazing feat, as we like to say. It's a miracle kind of thing. So, Vincent, maybe just to wrap up, I was wondering a little bit, what were your memories? What do you know? We're back in 2014. What were your like highlights that you still recall from that early stage in the journey?
Well, there were some moments where you told us, Jordi, about the wow effect. When we pitch our project, you want to have a punchy, a catchy sentence to attract your investors' attention. And we were training that from pitch to investors. And one day we were in a tower in Boston Financial District, and I pitched my project, and the guy was just like, wow. And that was the first time it really happened during the, the venture
You
leaders.
had the wow effect, and you thought, "Here I have
Exactly.
the finger on something."
That was a nice moment. Another nice memory is we were sharing rooms with other entrepreneurs, and 12 years later, I still see them from time to time at events or like as friends. And it's funny to remind ourselves, oh, you remember we went sharing that hotel room in New York?
That is fantastic. Fantastic to hear. Yes, actually. And I think that's something that as venture leaders, I am very joyful, or at least it rejoices me to hear. I mean, about this, that you keep contact, because I think in the path of being an entrepreneur, it's a very important thing to have fellow entrepreneurs with whom you can share along the path, and to create these links, this relationship early on. I think it's really important. So, Vincent, thank you very much. I don't know if you have any final word of wisdom for our next generation of entrepreneurs.
I think when your question list, you asked me for a quote. So I'd say when going global, I mean, cultural diversity isn't a challenge, it's a competitive advantage.
Thank you very much. I will conclude here, and a big thank you for your time, Vincent. We very much look forward to see the next steps of your adventures, because somewhere we can almost say it's only the start, even if we are already so advanced, because right now you are really rolling out there in the market and having the impact that we all dreamt of many, many years ago. Thank you very much, Vincent, for your time.